one of the issues that isn't going to go away anytime soon. Hopefully it will, because it will mean that the players truly understand what they can and can't do and comply with the NFL's gambling policy. And I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this, talking to people about it. The league has reached out and sent me different pieces of information. I mean, the bottom line is, I just wonder, and I know in the past, they haven't done a good job of communicating the requirements of the gambling policy to the players. The league hasn't, and some of the teams clearly haven't, or we wouldn't have seen these suspensions that just kind of pop up from time to time. If the players knew, they wouldn't be doing it. Now, Isaiah Rodgers, the guy whose name came up most recently, seemed to think he knew enough how to get around it, and he was wrong. You can't just show up at the facility with an account in an associate's name and place bets from your phone in the building. They're eventually going to find you. Big Brother is your phone, and Big Brother is going to betray you. But I wrote something about this morning. I feel like the league treats this policy like so many employers treat their HR policies, the manual that you get. Anyone out there that has a job, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, you know that when you show up, they got all these forms you got to sign. They got these videos you have to watch. There's all these boxes you have to check. And for a lot of it, the employer just wants to be able to say, we've harvested the signature on the document that says the person has received the policy. We don't care if the person reads it. We don't care if the person understands it. We just need the person to sign at the bottom line, I have received, read, and understand the policy. So we can cover our ass, we can stick it in the file, and if anything ever happens, we can say, aha! Oh, but you wrote right here your name. You signed it at the bottom.
Right.
You read it and you understand it. Don't try to tell us you didn't do it. You signed that you read and you understand it. That's not the way to properly communicate an important policy to people. And I think what happened was, in the past, the gambling policy just kind of got lumped in with everything else. And it wasn't the major blip on the radar screen that it should have been for players to truly read it, to truly understand it, to have the nuances communicated. And everything I see from the league about this, I've gotten a couple of different documents lately. There's nothing that draws the clear, bright line distinction that if you bet on a sportsbook app on your phone outside the facility, you're fine if it's a sport other than NFL football. If you do it the moment you walk through the door, you're going to get suspended 6 games. I've never seen that clearly spelled out.
Right.
In any of the documents I've received. So if it's not there, how do you expect players to know it? Unless they learn it through players getting whacked for it. And even then, you wonder how much of that is going to really resonate and people are going to truly understand it if it's not a core part of the educational process. Again, multiple documents I've gotten in recent days. There's nothing in there that says it's okay to bet on NBA, baseball, NHL, MMA, whatever, as long as you're not in the building. The moment you walk into the building, you can't do it. There needs to be a very bright light that he's shining on that distinction. And I've seen nothing in the educational materials that shines that light.
Yeah, it's obvious. You're right. There needs to be more, definitely. You know, I mean, they obviously got to put more around the building, the facility to remind players and keep it in their mind. You know, I'm a little like we talked about last week of like, wait, I've been in these meetings in this locker room. We heard players last week like C.J. Mosley, who's been around the NFL. He's like, how could you not know this? We have meetings and all this. But I think where maybe guys like, you know, older guy like me, C.J. Mosley, who's been around a little bit, right? And, you know, he's older as far as NFL world is concerned, where I think maybe I haven't taken into account, like you've talked about, maybe just the fact that, hey, I grew up in a different time. C.J. Mosley, when he first got in the NFL, it was even different. To where, yeah, the culture's changed. To where gambling is just like you talked about a little last week. It's so a part of the mainstream, and anybody over 21 is just like, hey, oh, yeah, hey, I'm betting on this. I'm betting on this. What are you betting on? Oh, me too. I mean, it's just constant to where, yeah, the messaging obviously is not enough for some of these young guys and players that we're seeing who are influenced by our current culture and society and where this is at. Because I'm on the side of, like, how could you not know this? It's thrown in your face in a lot of ways in the building, but obviously it's not enough for the way our world's set up right now with the phone and how easy and accessible it all is.
Well, a lot of it gets deferred to the teams, where the teams are expected to properly communicate it. Some are, some aren't. And I'll submit, and I know the Lions are doing some great things. When you have that many guys get suspended, you have 4 who have been suspended and 1 who's under investigation, there has been a flaw somewhere in the process of educating the information to the players. You don't just accidentally have that many Fs on the report card, to use the metaphor that Sean Payton used in some sound that we played on Friday when you were swinging in your hammock. He said last week to reporters, if you've got all these kids with D's on the report card, at some point the teacher is the one to blame for it. So some teams are doing it right, some teams aren't, but the league seems to me, and league, feel free to prove me wrong on this, it seems that they're more concerned about being able to say, hey, we told them. Hey, they signed the paperwork. Hey, we've don't blame us when they falter, when they fail to properly stay on the right side of the line. We've told them. We've given them the information. It's up to them to read it and understand it. And there's plenty of fans out there that will just say, yeah, it's their fault. They're stupid. They don't care. But let's be realistic. We're talking about kids. We're talking about guys 21, 22, 23 years old who have their faces surgically attached to their phones. How do you get through to them? It's not, well, hey, we said all these things. That's fine. You can say all you want, but you have to make sure they get it. Do they get it?
Yeah.
Do they understand it?
And the little details like you talk about, right?
Yeah.
That's the
and help them understand.
Yeah.
Make it come to life. What does this really mean? You can give me the rules, but you got to tell me what it means. You got to tell me where the line is. Where's the fence around the backyard that I know if I go over the fence, I'm in trouble? We don't know where the fence is. And this is from the document that was sent to me last night. This is from the NFL's educational efforts for 2023. And you look at it and say, okay, fine, don't bet on the NFL, period. Don't have someone place a bet for you. Don't gamble at the team facility, stadium, while traveling for a road game or staying at team hotel. Don't share team inside information. Don't enter a sports book during NFL playing season, and don't play daily fantasy football. Number 3 is the one that is vague. And it's the one where players aren't going to understand. They have every right to gamble at home. Yeah. They have every right to legally gamble at home. They have every right to legally gamble standing on the sidewalk out in front of the facility. That's what makes no sense about this. Somebody told me this yesterday. And this is what's odd. This is what's odd to me. This is a rule, the entire gambling policy. It's not collectively bargained. It all flows from the commissioner's power to protect, preserve, and advance the integrity of the game. And the union agrees. This isn't collectively bargained. This is something that we acknowledge the commissioner has the power to do, to create the gambling policy for players, to set the limits, to set the rules, to determine the punishment. Okay, fine. Why is there a distinction then? Why did the NFL do a favor to the players? And I wonder how much of a favor it really is.
Yeah, I don't know if it is.
Where players are allowed to bet on anything but NFL football as long as they're not at work, but nobody else is. Coaches, no. Assistants, no. Trainers, no. Other employees of teams, the league, you can't wager on any sport at any time. Why are the players allowed to then?
Why, Mike?
It's time for the top 5 conspiracy theorists to come out. Go ahead and put up Conspiracy Mike.
Oh, yeah,
I
what's
ran
your
this
2
by
cents?
Miles Simmons on Friday.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well,
why?
I feel...
There's no rights issue or like you're taking away anything like that, right? There's nothing there, right?
They've got the power to say to the players, this all flows from the integrity of the game.
Yeah.
You can't bet on any sport, period. And it applies to everyone. I mean, if they're doing it for everyone who isn't a player, why don't they just do it for the players? Here's where Conspiracy Mike comes in. I think that they like having the ability to catch someone violating the policy from time to time to create the impression that it's working. It's working. How do you prove that it's working? We got this guy. We got that guy. We got this guy. We got that guy. See, we're on that wall. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall, and I am on that wall catching guys who are violating the policy. But this is stuff that's just fallen into their laps. The sports books are ratting them out. They don't have to put any work into it. They have no enforcement cost. They just sit back and wait for BetMGM or FanDuel or DraftKings or whichever other sportsbook partner they have to say, we caught another one for you. Here's your fish. We caught the fish, but you can show it to the world and say you caught it. And what it does, Chris, and this is where conspiracy Mike comes into play. What it does is it cuts off, potentially, the curiosity that people like you and me would have as to what other violations may be happening that they don't know about, that they aren't spending the money to investigate, that they don't want, Chris, to spend the money to investigate. The use of inside information, the sale of inside information, the arrangement through a friend or a family member to actually bet on football games. But if you do it in a smart way, you're not going to be caught, right? How much time and effort is the NFL devoting to finding and rectifying the non-obvious, the non-easy, the it just fell out of the sky into our laps by way of the evidence we're using to suspend this player? How much time are they really spending on those issues? And we never get to that point if they're able to kind of placate the masses by periodically saying, hey, we got this guy. Hey, we got that guy. Hey, it's working. That's my.
I hear you a little.
And I don't know whether they set it up that way, but that's the practical result. We assume it's working. Look at the graphic. We assume the policy's working because they caught all those guys.
Well, I hear you, but I don't know if it's getting the main goal done by within that conspiracy or what your thought there. I get your thoughts there, and when you were first going there, I was going, maybe he's got a point here, but. The other side of this, at least that came to my brain listening to you here, and as we flush it out like we do always, I just go, is it worth it to do that? I think it opens up more questions. We're all going, wait, who's gambling? What are they doing? Where I feel like if they just had a blanket no gambling policy, period, we'd have less reason to question things. But since the door's open a little bit, it makes you think,
what else is happening.
What else is going on? So I don't know. I can see either way there, and I don't know sometimes. The NFL sometimes shows me they're much smarter than I think they are, and sometimes they do the opposite. So I'm not sure there.
Some people, I think, would be placated by the information that they have all these guys they're catching, everything's fine, everything's good. Others would say, is this just the tip of the iceberg?
Right.
And how much of that iceberg do you not want to spend the money to go investigate and explore? I think that's one of the reasons why the league looks the other way on tampering. Why the league looks the other way on a lot of things, that if the league was ferreting out these violations, eventually you're going to have someone in Congress or someone in a prosecutor's office somewhere say, this is an inherently corrupt organization. Let's go after them. Let's go show the world how deep that rabbit hole goes. And it's infested with cheaters. It's infested with criminals. Behind every great fortune is a crime. No, in front of every great fortune is a crime, and it's playing out, and they're not investigating it because they don't want the rest of the world to know how much is going on that shouldn't be. And again, this is just speculation. I don't know any of this stuff, but I feel like that's why when there's, for example, teams taking liberties with the injury report, clearly violating it, far more often than not, they look the other way. They turn a blind eye, to use our phrase from yesterday. Tanking, they don't want to catch anybody tanking. They don't want to admit that anybody tanks, because if they start saying to the world, we've got teams that are deliberately losing games, that's inviting a prosecutor, a legislator, some politician, a regulator, anyone to start giving them bigger issues. So I look, it's all I know is this. They're only catching the guys who, frankly, have been dumb enough to violate the policy. And I don't want to say that it's all on them if there hasn't been a proper effort to educate them. That's the issue.
I hear you.
You have to factor in age, you have to factor in interest level, and you have to factor in it's on you as the employer to take the important policies and make it rise above the noise. Now it is because of these suspensions.
Got to.
Previously it wasn't.
Right.
One more point.
Yeah.
One more point. And this bothered me last night. The document that they sent me that had those 6 rules that we were talking about.
Yep.
It also points out that the union, the NFL Players Association, has opportunities to further emphasize the gambling policy during their visits to the club facilities. Like, okay, it's on the union, too, to spread this message, even though it's our policy. But it also says this: the agents for the players have the opportunity to participate in gambling policy education training led by NFL compliance officials. I talked to 3 different agents last night that said, I don't know, I've never been invited to participate in anything related to the gambling policy. What are they talking about?
Never heard that.
And I said, well, maybe it's a nuance. It didn't say you were invited. It says you have the opportunity. And one agent said to me, what am I supposed to do? Show up at the Eagles facility and say, let me in? Yeah. Let me in for the gambling policy that I don't even know is being communicated to the players today? It's ridiculous. You know, I don't know if this applies across the board, but one agent told me I'd never even seen the policy on gambling until the union sent it out after all those Lions players and one Commanders player got popped back in April. Like, you got to disseminate this thing to the agents, and you got to make sure that they know it too. It all comes down to, are you truly trying to educate the players on what they can and can't do, or are you simply trying to cover your own ass so if the crap hits the fan, you can say, don't blame us, we told them. They signed the paperwork.
Yeah, I hear you.
They acknowledge receipt of the policy.
Yeah.
Do you really want to teach them, or do you just want to say, hey, we tried?
I just come back the more we talk about this the second time in 2 weeks here, where I just go, just the simple fix is easy. No gambling policy if you're playing in the NFL, period. You know, there's just going to be too many issues that are going to open up with this. And yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to go out of their no gambling and they want to go out of their way and risk their job to get a cousin to bet, you know, and win $1,000 on the app, because there's only a certain amount or a certain number you can go to on the app and all that. If somebody's willing to risk their career and all that because they want to win an extra $1,000 or $2,000, you know, for a weekend game, damn, then they're just stupid altogether. But I just still think the easy fix here would be nothing. Just end it. Put the kibosh on it for everybody, and I feel like it'll be better for all of us, the players, the consumers, and everybody around the sport.
I mean, think about the way that a player would have to process that. Okay, if I play in the NFL, I can't bet on any sports, football, non-football. I can't bet. That's my trade-off.
Yeah.
I'm going to play in the NFL. I'm going to get paid accordingly, and I have to wait until after my playing career is over if I want to become an expert in betting on baseball. Right? That's 99.99999% of the players are going to say, I'll go ahead and play in the NFL. And for the one that says, no, I'd rather have the ability to gamble, they'll say, fine, see you later. We'll fill your spot with someone else. Right. They won't care.
Right.
So, and there's another point, Chris, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. This is one of the benefits of doing this show because, look, we don't do a lot of prep. We just show up and we talk. We have a conversation just like two guys sitting at a bar. Think about this. One of the reasons they let players bet legally on other sports is because when you're doing it on your app, when you're doing it on the big brother that you're carrying around in your pocket, you don't run the same risk that used to be prevalent.
Yeah.
Where
see Jimmy
you got
the
a
Shark.
bookie.
Right. You got to see
you
Jimmy
got a
the
bookie,
Shark.
right?
Yeah.
And you're into Jimmy the Shark for 10 large. And you don't know where you're going to come up with it because it's the off season. You're not getting your game checks. I know they've changed it now, and the players get checks all year long. But bear with me. Back in the old days.
Yeah,
back in the old days.
Yeah.
I don't have the money. So, you know, Jimmy the Shark's got a proposition for me. He wants a little information, wants a little arrangement where, you know, every week, night before the game, going to give him a phone call, tell him, you know, what the game plan is the next day, tell him who's really injured, and who knows where that leads. That's why it used to be none of it, nothing, no sports betting of any kind. But here's the problem, Chris. I think I saw the numbers yesterday. 15 of the states where the NFL does business, only 15 of them have legalized gambling. California, where the Chargers, Rams, and 49ers play, there's no legal gambling there. Texas, Cowboys, and Texans, there's no legal gambling there. Florida, Jaguars, Buccaneers, and Dolphins, there's no legal gambling there. Now, when you look at put the document up, the 6 rules, and this is straight from what the NFL sent me last night, that graphic we showed earlier that we'll show you again here in a second.
Right.
With all this talk about it's okay to bet as long as you're not at the team facility, Will there be a nuance lost on the players in the states where it's not legal, thinking, hey, I can call my bookie. I can bet on baseball now. I can bet on basketball. I can go 150,000 in the hole with Jimmy the Shark, and I won't have any issues. No, you can't illegally bet anywhere. That's part of it too. So that just makes the message more convoluted. Back to your point. Let's just avoid all that crap.
I think so.
Let's just say you can't bet on any sports whatsoever.
I don't get it.
Who's going to stand up and say the players should have the right to bet on whatever they want to bet on? Sit down. Because if we're truly concerned about the integrity of the game, it's a small price to pay to play in the NFL. You suspend any betting that you would engage on in any sport until after you're done playing in the NFL. That's not much to ask.
No,
and it clears all this. It just clears the air, and we all understand what the rule is then.
I agreed. The more you think about it, you just go, I don't even understand why is this policy here the way, why is it written the way it is? I mean, again, maybe I hang around with you too much, but the thought has crept into my mind over the last week, right? Conspiracy Chris has gone, man, maybe the NFL made it this way because, like, the gambling book, the sports betting books were like, hey, we'd like the 2,000 guys and the league to gamble a little. We like the money.
Business.
And I mean, I hope it's not that shallow. But
hey, there's 4 more spots in the top 5 conspiracy theories. You can still earn one of them.
Thank you.
Howie will give you one of them. I hadn't thought of it that way. Hey, we need some whales here. Right. We don't want to turn away the guys with extra disposable income.
Exactly.
And we know these players got disposable income.
Right.
And they need the juice. They like that energy.
They like to bet NBA games,
hey,
so let's get it going.
Hey, NFL.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hey, I'm
Occam's razor.
Just for fun. Hey, I'm using anybody's name here. A guy, and I don't know, Travis Kelce, hey, he likes to donate on NBA Finals games. We'd like to keep it going. I know Travis Kelce. I don't have no idea. I'm just throwing a name out. But
you may be onto something because somebody explained this to me last night. Think about it. When does the NFL ever do anything that is regarded as a favor to the player?
Right.
It's very adversarial.
Right.
It's very confrontational. And this is an area where the union has surrendered the floor to the league. The union has said, this isn't a matter for collective bargaining. This is all part of the commissioner's inherent duty to protect the integrity of the game. Do whatever you want to do. And so the commissioner, in the exercise of his full authority to protect the integrity of the game, says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm in a good mood today. I'll decide to let the players bet on any sport other than pro football. Why the hell would you do that? And maybe it is. Maybe it is. Hey, Roger, we're paying you all this money. We would like to get a return on it. We would like to make some of the money back. And you got some young guys with a lot of money to burn, and they're carrying around those phones. And maybe we should let them bet on non-NFL sports so we can win some of that money back that we're paying to you hand over fist so we can be your official sportsbook partner for the year 2023. You may be onto something, Conspiracy Chris. We may have to fix that graphic. It may be you smoking a cigarette, not with tobacco in it, with all those lines drawn on the board behind you.
I think so. I think maybe it's time. It's official that we throw a graphic out there for me. I don't want to be the same guy you are, right? They got to find somebody else. But yes, I think I'm ready for it. I'll jump in the pool with you there.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.